Hello and welcome to another chess game. This video is going to be essentially a Blitz and Bullet masterclass, with the teachers being Magnus Carlsen and Ian Nepomniachtchi. So the game I'm going to show is an Armageddon game by these guys from the Legends of Chess tournament. So let's directly go to the game. Nepomniachtchi is with the white pieces, and so he's got 5 minutes, Carlsen only has 4 minutes. This was an English opening, so c4, e5, g3, and here Carlsen plays the move that he recently invented with d5, and with the idea, especially for Blitz, that after this c takes the queen d5, even though the queen will have to retreat later on, black will have an easy play of developing his pieces. So knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, queen goes back, bishop g2, knight f6, and here Nepomniachtchi shows that he clearly prepared. He played the move b4, with the idea, of course, that now white's plan is to play b5 and take this pawn. But if black takes on e5, then Nepomniachtchi could take on e5, and after knight e5, queen a4, white regains all the material. So knight c6, bishop c6 takes back queen b4, and now the black pawn structure is just ruined, and well, the material is actually equal, so white is doing very well here. So for exactly this reason, to b4, Carlsen replied just with a6. Now the game goes on with normal developing moves, so a3, bishop d6, bishop b2, castle, d3, rook e8, white castles as well, h3, rook c1, so the rook now arrives on this half-open c-file. The position starts to look like very much a reverse Sicilian, especially a reverse dragon. So bishop f5, knight d2, queen d7, with the idea to put the bishop to h3 and exchange his bishops. Nepomniachtchi plays rook e1 so that he can play bishop h1 later on if wants to avoid the trade. So rook b8 comes from Carlsen's side so that he could jump into d4 later, and this pawn will be protected. Nepomniachtchi plays knight e4, takes, bishop h3, bishop h1, and now Nepomniachtchi's idea is just to play knight c5 and play on the queen side. And actually he will also try to grab the bishops later, so we'll see that after knight d4, now Nepomniachtchi plays knight c5, and because this pawn here is also hanging, there is not much else black could do, just giving up his bishop, and after rook c5, white's advantage is actually very clear. So here Nepomniachtchi is both up on clock, and also his position is better. He's got two bishops, and the position is fairly open. So here Carlsen has to go for some counterplay. He tries to sort of complicate the position. So he starts with bishop g4, putting some pressure on e2, and after rook d5, queen e6, he actually, Carlsen just offers his pawn. So now comes bishop d4, ed, rook d4, and white is simply up a pawn here, but Carlsen's idea was that he can take on e2. And after queen d2, it looks like, while black is in a horrible pin, but actually Carlsen has an intermediate move, queen b6, hitting the rook, and later the black bishop could go back. But actually Nepomniachtchi calculated more precisely, because in this position he's got rook h4, and now it turns out that this bishop is actually trapped at this point. So even though it's not in the pin anymore, there is no place right now that the black bishop can go to. So therefore Carlsen is forced to actually weaken his king side with the move g5, so that he makes a square, the h5 square for his bishop. But after rook e4, d actually these pawns are becoming very weak, and also the king side is very weak of Carlsen. The king is very weak of Carlsen. So now Carlsen can retreat with his bishop, bishop g4, and Nepomniachtchi plays e5 to open up his last cut bishop. And after bishop e6, Nepomniachtchi decided that, well, this is the time to go after Carlsen's kings, and plays h4. And here Carlsen realized correctly that he actually has to go for the complications, because his position is just simply bad, so he took on h4. And here Nepomniachtchi made, well, eventually the final mistake actually, because he took on h6, he could have just taken back on h4, and after g takes h4, white threats are actually still ongoing, so this pawn is still hanging. White can play bishop e4 to activate his bishop, play king h2, rook g1 to activate the rook, and well, actually this is just a devastating attack from the white side, so this position is very bad for Carlsen. But Nepomniachtchi actually did not take back, but it took on h6, and it turns out that after h takes g, actually black will have enough counterplay. So now there is this pin, so this f2 pawn is pinned, black cannot, the white cannot take back on g3, and when white plays rook e3, the problem is that after gf, king takes f2, there is still, this pin is still on, and this rook can still not move. So rook g3 would be a very nice move that white would like to play, however the rook is still pinned. And in this position, therefore Carlsen can play bishop f5, with the idea that the 6th rank is now open, so the black queen can also join the defense. And here Nepomniachtchi decided to complicate matters further, so Carlsen only has a bit more than a minute left, Nepomniachtchi still has more than 2 minutes, keeping his 1 minute advantage from the starting point. So here Nepomniachtchi plays the move e6, trying to close up the 6th rank, and hoping for that at some point he can unpin his rook and go with rook g3 for the mate. But Carlsen just took on e6, and after queen g5, king f7, now Nepomniachtchi plays bishop f2 with the idea to activate his bishop on h5. However, Carlsen plays the good move with queen d4, and the central queen is actually super active. It's going to cover f6 and g7, and also about to give many checks to the white king. So the game goes on with bishop h5, king f8, king f1, rook d8. Now Carlsen also activates his rook, and after rook g3, so now finally Nepomniachtchi has some threats with king g8. However, it's black to move, and black has all his pieces active, so it's very obvious that there must be at least a perpetual. And Carlsen actually only needs a perpetual because he's playing the back pieces in the Armageddon. So from this point onwards, Carlsen is just giving as many checks as he can and try to create the threefold repetition. So he gives queen e1 check, king f2, queen d4, king f1, queen e1, king g2. So also from Nepomniachtchi's side, all he has to do is repeat very many times, and hoping that Carlsen uses up his time, and well, at some point he can just flag Carlsen. But also Nepomniachtchi has to make sure that he doesn't blunder a threefold repetition. But Carlsen is also incredibly quick. So queen b2, king g1, other check, king h2, checks, checks, check, check. Now Nepomniachtchi had to move his rook, otherwise it would have been a threefold repetition. Queen e4, rook g2, queen e1 check, king h2, again checks, checks, checks. But always just avoid the threefold repetition. And here at this point, Nepomniachtchi couldn't do anything better but to offer the exchange of queens, so that there would be no threefold. But at the same time, this endgame is obviously very losing for white. I mean, he's just down by 2 pawns. But at this point, Carlsen only has 21 seconds left. And now comes the real mastery of Carlsen. He's going to play incredibly fast. So exchanging the queens, now the rook comes in, king f4, black plays king e7, king e5, rook d5, and the kings comes up. So actually, the way Carlsen plays this is he's just playing for a win. He activates all his pieces, and well, if there is a chance to repeat, he very quickly repeats, so that it forces Nepomniachtchi to choose something else, to use his own time, and probably to play even an inferior move, so that Carlsen's advantage would just grow. Comes rook g8, rook d4 check, king e3, king e5. So now black is having a wonderful position, all his pieces are very active. Rook b8, rook d3, king f2, rook e3, rook b7, c6. So well, black is clearly up by 2 pawns, the position is completely winning, but the problem is that Carlsen's time is ticking. Rook b6, bishop e4, bishop e2, bishop d5, rook b8. Yeah, so black could have just taken on a6, but in that case, white could have taken a6, but in that case, black is going to take the last pawn of white, resulting for sure at least a draw for black, which is enough to win the match. So comes rook b8, trying to keep some pieces, but well, Carlsen is just going further and further, and well, is getting very close to winning. So again, in this position, Carlsen is happy to repeat because he would win in that case. So Nepomniachtchi has to choose something else. Again, repetition. And after bishop d1, e3, rook h4, king d3, rook h6, bishop f3. Well, it's clear that all the white pieces are going to be gone, and after rook d6, king c3, so black is going to just take on, black is going to just take on d1, exchange all the white pieces, take on b4, and obviously black is completely winning, but white has no material, so even if he flags Carlsen, then it would be just a draw. So at this point, the players actually agreed to a draw, and the most beautiful part of this is that Carlsen, in this position, when they exchanged the queens, Carlsen had 21 seconds left, so this is move 53. At the end, it is move 80. Carlsen still has 13 seconds left. So he made 38 moves in just 8 seconds. So this is clearly just super amazing, and he was incredibly fast and managed to clinch the victory of this match.